and video is recording. And all that's left is for us to do the beginning, which starts in 3, 2, 1.
I have
Current Geek!
Current Geek!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Current Geek. Welcome to Current Geek, the talk show about items of interest to the geeks of the world and you. I'm Scott Johnson, and he's Tom Merritt.
I am, in fact, Tom Merritt, and this is the show where Scott and I talk about things from a geeky perspective. And this week, we're talking about what's in the news.
That's right. I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while, and I don't know why that is. I guess it's been since Wednesday of last week, so it's been about a week.
Yeah.
And I feel like I feel like
long time.
we talk more than that, and so it's weird.
It's so much has changed since we last spoke,
Yeah.
Scott. I ate some Korean fried chicken.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Wow.
I watched some television shows.
Wait, can you tell me what cream fried chicken is before we just dive
Korean
past that?
Korean fried chicken.
Oh, and they said, okay, I've had Korean fried chicken. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But cream fried chicken, which is not what you said.
No. Korean fried chicken is really just fried chicken. But then it's kind of more about the sides.
Yeah.
Although you can get sauces. They like wings there in the Korea.
Yeah.
So you can get like hot sauce or sweet sauce or, you can get it with rice and pickled radish and all that kind of good stuff.
That all sounds amazing. Do you have that today?
I had that yesterday in celebration of President's Day.
Ah, what a way to celebrate President's Day with some Korean food.
The other way I celebrate President's Day is to name all of the presidents through Ford in order.
Whoa, can you do that?
Yeah, Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Adams, Jackson, Van Buren, Harrison, Tyler, Polk, Taylor, Fillmore, Pierce, Buchanan, Lincoln, Johnson, Grant, Hayes, Garfield, Arthur, Cleveland, Harrison, McKinley, Roosevelt, Taft, Wilson, Harding, Coolidge, Hoover, Roosevelt, Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford.
And you could, it's a really good ending with Ford, isn't it? But you could go on from there because you know all the ones after that.
But I memorized it as a 6-year-old
right
when Ford was president. So that just happens. Like I just click the switch in my brain that's like, do that. And it all comes rolling out.
Yeah.
Whereas once I get to Ford, then it's like Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan.
Yeah, you got to slow it down.
Clinton, Bush.
Yeah. It's hard.
I have to start thinking about it. It's not memorized.
Right. You got to kick it back up with a Carter. You got to end it with a Trump. It's weird. It's strange. And you're not 6 anymore. Days gone past, everybody. Days gone past. Well, today won't go past without some headlines.
Herbert Hoover, Secretary of Commerce in 1922, finds infant radio facilitates news gathering, as do many others in high public office.
Tom, let's talk about what's happening today.
A first-run copy of Super Mario Brothers for NES sold earlier this month for $100,150.
Oh, yeah.
By all accounts, it's the first time a single collectible video game sold for 6 figures. A copy of Super Mario Brothers set a record in 2017, selling for a mere $30,000. Chump change.
Nothing.
Compared to this.
Yeah.
The new record holder is from a limited first run of Super Mario Brothers that was not shrink-wrapped, but contained a foil sticker with the Nintendo logo on it to seal the top flap of the box. Almost every copy that you've ever seen up until now of that, the foil was broken so that people could get in the box and pull out the thing. Or even if they were trying to keep it mint, that foil sticker just kind of rubbed off because it's kind of flimsy. This one, pristine. 9.4 out of 10.
I had this very early run thing with the seal, but of course I broke the seal and played the game. So, and I don't know where my copy is. So I'm thinking, even if I could find it, it's not going to be worth jack. I mean, basically, mine is one of a giant pile of Mario games, Super Mario Brothers games that are played and dusty, and I probably had to blow that thing out 20 times, and it's not going to happen. But do you have any, not necessarily video games, but do you have anything laying around that you're like, boy, I bet if I sold that copy of whatever, I'd get a lot of money from it?
You know, it's funny how I do, to 12-year-old Tom, have things that I feel like I could sell for a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? I have a few baseball cards that are probably worth in the $50s to $100 maybe.
Not bad.
But to me now, I'm like, well, that's not that. I mean, I'd rather have the card than sell it for $50. You know, like it's not the windfall that it felt like it would be when I was a kid looking up baseball card prices. I don't have anything in the hundreds that I'm aware of, in the hundreds of dollars or the thousands of dollars, certainly not in the tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've got a lot of old stuff.
Most of which you could reach and grab right now if you wanted.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's all right here in this room.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of things in pristine condition. I've always liked to use the things. Now, I've got my baseball cards in albums.
Yeah.
So they're protected, but they're not graded. They're not that PSA graded, in the super sealed thing that will never degrade, which is what you're supposed to do for the really valuable stuff. You see that with the Super Mario's cartridge. It's in like a super duper seal with the grading, the authenticated grading on the top, so it's 9.4. I don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
The only thing I even have that's sealed is a pack of MASH trading cards.
Oh my gosh. Really?
Yeah.
Dude, that's cool. I mean, I don't know if they're worth
anything. I don't know
anything.
that it's worth, again, probably less than $50, right? It's probably
Right.
worth maybe $10. I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but
Trading cards. I just got to look these up. I didn't even know this was a thing.
I have the complete set of MASH trading cards because at a baseball card show when I was a kid, I bought 2 boxes of unopened MASH trading cards. And when I say boxes, I mean, the little boxes that they had up at the drugstore, my packs out of it. I bought 2 unopened boxes of that. I opened one of the boxes, opened all the packs, collected the whole set, put it in an album, and then the other box I didn't need. Once I got the whole set, I'm like, well, I don't need to open those, so I left them there. So I still have some unopened MASH packs.
Well, wow, they've got. I'm looking these up just to see what you might have. So if you had 224 sealed packs, unopened packs, you would have
of
about
MASH?
$159 worth is what that is.
Yeah, see, and I probably have like 10 unopened packs, something like that. So
it's probably not enough to get too shook up about, but that's so cool. I'd probably never.
What
get rid
about
of
you?
those.
Do you have anything like that?
Well, I was thinking about this the other day, and I had somebody tell me that they don't think that the world, like the idea of collectibles happening now, just isn't a thing anymore. If you talk to somebody like Steven Schleicher, who's an expert in comic books, he'll remind people that hey, if you don't have anything older than the mid '80s, it's not going to be worth anything, and not because and not because
that's true. Baseball cards too.
Well, that's true, but it's not because it's not far enough away. It's that after that point, they either made a ton of everything. I mean, there's nothing unique out there. Like, there's no single issue that's like, oh, I gotta have number 52 from 1995. Those just don't exist. Plus, they're all in digital form now. Like, we're entering this phase where we have so much stuff mass produced in easy to access digital formats, movies, TV, whatever it is, whatever copy of whatever you have, that they're no longer worth what they used to be because of that. And I had a buddy say the only way we're ever going to have anything that's modern be worth anything in 100 years is if we nuke ourselves and there's only a few of everything left and they have to make sense of it, Well,
and think about it, right? The reason this particular Super Mario Brothers is worth $100,000 is not because it's Super Mario Brothers. In fact, the Kotaku article makes clear, like, if you just have a Super Mario Brothers cartridge from that first year, it's worth a few bucks, right?
Yeah.
If it's sealed, then it's worth more.
Right.
If it's, and that's unusual. And what made this one so valuable is there weren't that many that had the foil thing, right? So it's whenever there's a run of something that then changes quickly, and maybe that first run is not valued at the time, so it gets deliberately, used or abused. I'm thinking of Kickstarter items. Like, there might be a Kickstarter out there. Maybe it's for a comic book, or maybe it's for a video game, although most of that stuff's digital. Maybe it's a musician who puts out a limited run of vinyl, even though most people are buying the digital download, where the Kickstarter run is so small, but then that artist goes on to be so big that the people who have the original Kickstarter in an unopened, right? Everybody who backed the Kickstarter probably opens it up, but the one person who didn't has the thing that's super valuable in the future.
Yeah, I think that's right. And everything's just too, I mean, like I remember that Kiss comic, it was worth money because the band put their blood in the ink. Do you remember that whole thing? That was kind of cool.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So those are worth money if you have an issue that had the actual blood in it. If you have, I remember there's like kind of the lewd Aladdin cover to the VHS tape that came out when that cartoon hit VHS. And we have one somewhere. If you have that in pristine condition, it's worth something because they stopped production and started a new whole set based on different art. So there's stuff like that, glitches, goofs, spelling errors on the back of a card or something where they had to stop production.
Something that was limited run.
Yeah, you got to create limited sort of scarcity. Otherwise, the stuff I have this is stuff I like. Like it doesn't really have any monetary value, really. I mean, maybe it will one day.
Well, and that's why I don't have much to tell you that's valuable, right? Because for me, it's a lot of things that would have been valuable had I not taken it out, read it, played with it, used it, etc.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. $100,000.
Houdini7 in the chat points out some Kickstarter-only board games are already going up in value. So yeah.
Oh, really? Is that true? Yeah. I didn't know that. See, tabletop. That's interesting. Tabletop's a part of a market that's still already sort of niche anyway. Doesn't it's not super broad based, especially the really complicated stuff, your Gloomhavens and your whatevers. So the fact that those kind of exist in their own little sphere and only so many get made, it's not like Parker Brothers or something like that where they may do reissues or whatever. These are small teams working on small things. That's a really interesting part of this because I normally don't think of board games, but yeah, board games are still a very cottage industry.
I do have this 1977 Falstaff Bicentennial beer can.
Is it full?
However, my grandpa used a key to open up the bottom so he could actually drink the beer.
Yeah.
And just save the can.
So that way the pull tab's not pulled.
Oh, it's 1976. Sorry, Bicentennial.
Oh, okay. That'd be cool. I have an old can of Coke Classic somewhere that's just not unopened. I'd never drink it, obviously. Oh, and I have... Speaking of Coke, I have a whole rack. Not a rack. I have like 6 cans of World of Warcraft launch Cokes that came out in 2004 when they launched the game in China. So all the writing on the cans is Chinese. All the WoW art and stuff, that's all Chinese letters and characters. And those cans are still unopened. Maybe one day those will be worth something. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, I also have a like one of the last Coke cans before Coke changed to New Coke.
Is it full or is it empty?
No, it's empty. I drank it.
Oh, Tom.
But I kept the can. Yeah. And I used to have it right here. I'm actually not sure where it went.
The rarity is part of you now.
Let's move to the universe, Scott.
Okay. I like it there.
A team of astronomers using one of the world's most powerful telescopes has observed the effect of dark matter in the context of general relativity to create the most comprehensive map of dark matter today. Now, this finding has yet to pass peer review. So we're waiting on a publication in a respected journal. But if no flaws in the paper are discovered, they expect it to show that dark matter structures are evolving more slowly than expected, which you may be like, well, okay, who cares? If further data bears it out, though, it could shed light on something missing in the standard model of physics, which is what we've been using forever now. The standard model of physics describes everything, but it doesn't really unify gravity and quantum mechanics. And quantum mechanics and gravity being unified, often called the unified field theory, would change physics in amazing ways. You know, a lot of the tech that we use today falls out of the discovery of electrons and the standard model and quantum mechanics and how that works. Imagine if we figured out the unified field theory, that would be crazy. And what's going on with dark matter is essentially defined, and physicists just cringe silently in the corner while I say this, but dark matter is defined as the matter that we can't see except through its gravitational effect. Right. We have no way of detecting it other than seeing its effect. That's why it's called dark matter. Like, we see effects of gravity that can't be accounted for the visible matter. So we're like, oh, well, there must be some other matter out there that's dark, that doesn't reflect light in the same way. And so they use this telescope to look for that. And the way it evolves means when they see the effect of dark matter, that is very far away, they know that that's older dark matter. That's closer to the beginning of the universe. When they see the effect of dark matter that's rather close, that's more recent. And the way dark matter changed over that time period in those observations is a little slower than they thought. So either dark matter is not what they thought it was, or there is some new thing. This, again, has to pass peer review. They have to collect more data to confirm it. Then they have to figure out what's really going on. But it points to something that physicists have been wanting for decades now, which is a clue to figuring out what is dark matter, what is dark energy, and how do we unify all the theories into one.
Right. No, that's
grand unified theory.
That feels like a bunch of steps forward. It seems super. I've always found dark matter, the whole concept of dark matter, scary, and it's because we don't know a lot about it. But the idea of calling it dark matter because you can't see it and it's out there going reh and moving
I've often
slow.
thought of dark matter and dark energy as the same thing as ether. If you remember, and not ether like you get at the dentist, but
right.
There was the theory of the ether, and they're like, oh, how does light pass through a vacuum? Well, it goes through the ether.
Right.
We don't know how light could get through a vacuum because there's nothing to propagate it. But if there was this substance called the ether, then maybe it goes through that. And then later we figured out photons, and we're like, oh, okay, there's no need for ether. The photons just are waves and particles and dual, and figured it out, right? And the ether, we didn't need ether anymore. But it was a nice placeholder. I feel like that's dark matter and dark energy. It's not that they're wrong. They're just placeholders for something that we haven't quite figured out yet.
Yeah, I get that. They're like little... just little blur marks, like little redacted spaces. We don't know yet. Yeah.
It's like we know something's there.
Right.
We just don't know what it is. We only can tell what its effects are.
Yeah. Now, so, all right. I was going to ask a question that's probably way out of my freaking lane. I probably shouldn't ask it.
But I probably won't be able to answer it.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to answer anyway, but people at home are just going to go, gosh, dang it, Scott, take a class. I mean, I'm not going to ask it. But all I would like to say about about all of this is what I like about human beings. We have no idea. We have some cool little hints as to what maybe we're looking for, but we don't really know yet. So what do? We keep picking away, and this is great. This is good picking away at it. Keep picking is what I say, and hopefully, people keep putting money and effort into such a thing, because I would love to one day understand what dark matter is, so we could, I don't know.
What was your question?
I can't. I'm not going to ask it. It's dumb. It's super dumb. I'm not going to ask it. If I ask it, I'll feel dumb. Oh, by the way,
what if I have an answer?
I have a second question for you. Do you still use, your dentist uses ether when you go to the dentist?
No, my dentist doesn't use ether.
I was going to say, because that is some old school.
I don't think any dentist uses ether anymore.
I don't think
it's even wrong. There might be some old school dentists out there passing ether. Yeah.
I can't even imagine it's legal anymore.
My cultural illusions are often 80 to 100 years old, Scott. You know this about me.
Don't change either, because I think it's great. There's no complaining here. I like it.
When the Fox said, why don't we call it strange matter? But we actually already have a quirk named strange. Up, down, strange, charming.
Yeah.
We already have those.
Yeah. And again, like Tom said, they're like placeholders. They're like, I don't know. When you see an early cut of a movie and the effects aren't done, and they'll put in like a little thing that says effects still coming or whatever. It's like that.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
We know something's there.
Sure.
Like the visual effect. We just don't know what it is. Yeah. We haven't seen the effect.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
I really want to know what your question is.
I'll send it to you later. I'm not doing it on the air.
Sorry, folks. You're not going to find out. Software developer Philip Wang has used an open source implementation of a generative adversarial network, or GAN, to create a website called thispersondoesnotexist.com. Put a pin in that. I'm going to get back to that. A generative adversarial network works. It's only a couple years old. It's an AI technology where you have two neural networks basically face off, right?
Okay.
One is, in this case, literally about faces. One of them, in this case, is good at detecting whether a face is a human face or not.
Yeah.
And the other one is good at creating human faces from scratch.
Okay.
And so the way you do this is you have one of them create a bunch of faces, and the one that's good at recognizing faces tells it, nope, that one sucks, that one's good, that one's great, that one looks like a deer, that one's not a human, until they get really good at doing this.
Okay.
They're trained on real faces. The data set that they're trained on is real faces, but in their like learning efforts, they don't use real faces. That is important to understand. They're not creating faces from parts of other images. They're creating from scratch human faces. This GAN, Generative Adversarial Network, runs on NVIDIA software and creates a human face every 2 seconds at thispersondoesnotexist.com. As you refresh the website, you'll get its latest creation. And it's important to note that GANs don't assemble new faces from real faces. They learn how to create an image from scratch based on that training data I was talking about. No, and these, I mean,
some of them are freaky.
I've done this. I've refreshed this a lot.
Yeah.
I run into a couple where I'm like, oh, okay, I can see some weird things in the hair, or the ears aren't matching up.
Yeah.
But man, more often than not, these look really convincing.
Yeah, there's some of these where you're like, okay, yeah, there's a perspective problem, or my brain kicks in and goes, something's off there. But some of these are completely 100% convincing. Like this lady here, she's real as far as I'm concerned. She doesn't look fake. Well, you can't see her, but or that lady, that looks like just a random photo taken at a party. Oh yeah, I don't like this. Tom, this is the future we're hurtling toward. This is dark matter made real.
I have to say, wow. I just pulled up a very fetching person.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But she has 2 different colored eyes, although that's a thing that actually happens.
Yeah, it does.
That's the first thing that struck me. It's like, wait, one eye's brown, one eye's blue. She David Bowie?
So wait, give the site again. What is it again? It's the net.
Thispersondoesnotexist.com. And the question I was going to ask before I was struck by this person who does not exist. Oh my gosh, the next one. I wish I could share my screen.
Oh no. I kind of want to see it.
Oh, it's so bad. It's like got parts of her face missing and blank spots. And
So
this is the worst one I've seen yet. Right after one of the best ones I've seen yet. Anyway, the point I was trying to make before I got distracted by thispersondoesnotexist.com is the only thing that's really different about this is scale. Like it's an AI achievement that this can create such convincing faces from scratch. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But really, it's no different than using clip art of people you don't know.
Yeah.
There's no way and that's what's impressive about this. There's no way you know whether this is created by an AI or just a clip art person you've never met before. And I think that the effects of this particular function aren't really that scary to me because of that.
Well,
yeah, you could create a lot of pictures of people really fast, and I'm sure there's a way you could exploit that in some way, but it's not like fake video where you could fake something that didn't happen and have people sound like they're saying it and all of that. That freaks me out. That gives me some pause. I have reason to not fear it entirely, but that I'm like, oh yeah, you could possibly do some really bad stuff with that. Just creating a fake face on its own, not enough to really get me too worried.
Okay, well, this is interesting you brought this up. I'm fiving through these, right? Taking a look at them as they're being generated, and they're pretty freaking convincing. And these aren't archived, right? These are being created on the fly. Correct? Yeah. Okay. So these are being assembled on the fly based on the machine learning. Here's my question. If we are to be... oh, that's odd. Wow. Okay, sometimes there's a glitch. You can't see this. Or maybe you can because you're streaming it. I don't know. But this guy's got one of his glasses...
the AI started creating glasses and then gave up.
Yeah, but now it looks like an implant, like a Borg or something.
Actually, Scott, no, that's the future version of Google Glass right there.
Oh, I see. You just jam it in the side of your head.
It's just a little thing. You barely even know.
Well, anyway, so to my question, though, if computers are smart enough that we're getting them to do this, the one hope I have in the future of like everything's fake, everyone's worried about that, is that computers will also be the ones that can tell us if it was. Do you know what I mean? Like if we can train them to make these, we can also, those same or other computers can be really good at knowing that they're fake and telling us. So if somebody sends me a photo, I predict this is actually going to happen. Here's a little forecast early for you. Someone's going to send me a photo and I'm going to go, I don't know, something fishy about that. I wonder if that's real. And I'm going to be able to put it through some algorithm, smart machine thing, and it's going to poop out on the other end and say, yes, this is a real photo, or no, this is not a real photo, and here's where all the pieces came from. And like it'll all be this real-time fact-checking. And it will be computers that save us from computers.
Yeah, well, I mean that's kind of using a generative adversarial network, right? Like you're saying, hey, the one that's really good at detecting faces, can you detect when the face has been made by an AI? Because if so, we need your help.
Yeah, it's really cool, though.
By the way, I texted you two things. Don't use the wide one because it's got some of my text messages in it, but use the close-up text message shows you the one that's really bad that I just had.
Oh, geez.
Right?
Yeah, those computers are wrong.
That one didn't work at all.
No, I can't show the chat, but that is gnarly. Like, holy Moses. Hold on. Can I blow that up? Oh, it makes me open it. Hold on. A chat room, you may have to see this face. I just need to zoom in here. And this is great radio. I know everybody at home listening on their phone, they're like, man, I'm sure having fun imagining this. All right, it's going to take forever. I'm going to let it load, and we'll see if it comes up. That's fascinating. I didn't know we were going to get that today. That's pretty cool. And I'm not nervous. I think it's great. Look at this. When the Fox says there's already a site that shows you where images were edited. Well, that makes sense from an editing perspective.
That's just reading the metadata.
Right.
So that may not help you in this case.
In this case, no, yeah. I mean, it may be sometimes an obvious thing will happen, like that guy's glasses were embedded in his head.
But that's good for catching photoshopped stuff.
Sure. The lady I'm looking at now, some real eye issues.
Oh, yeah.
The skin stuff sometimes is a little funky, but it's damned impressive. Hard for me to get around. I'm having major brain fart at the moment looking at that. That's crazy. Anyway, there you go. Fake faces, everybody. Get used to it.
Fake faces, the wave of the future. We haven't even got to forecast yet. All right. Ikea apologized 2 months after announcing it plans to open stores in New Zealand, not apologizing for opening stores in New Zealand. The problem is that a user in Washington, D.C. found the Bjorkstrom map that Ikea sells at its Ikea locations here in the U.S. leaves New Zealand off.
Oh, no.
It's like Ikea's like, hey, we're coming to New Zealand. Unfortunately, none of our maps have New Zealand. Can anyone tell us where New Zealand is? Our map doesn't show it.
Oh, man.
Apparently, this is a thing that happens a lot. A lot of maps leave off New Zealand, so much so that there is a whole subreddit devoted to it, where, of course, the embarrassing Ikea map was posted.
Didn't they? I read, I guess they've since said sorry, and they're going to.
Well, they said they were going to pull the map, but then people were like, I still see it for sale online.
Well, you got old stock. What are you going to do? Melt those down and make end tables out of it? Probably not.
Yeah.
You got to keep selling it. Sorry, New Zealand. We now live in a world where The Hobbit never happened, and there's no Lord of the Rings being filmed there, and I don't know who Jermaine Clement is. I don't know.
I'd bet if I did a search, I could figure out why, because every answer is available on the internet if you know where to look. But I only have a certain amount of minutes in the day, so if anybody knows off the top of their head, oh yeah, this is why New Zealand gets left off a bunch, email us, currentgeek@gmail.com.
Yeah, I'd love to know, because we like New Zealand. You guys are cool.
We do. We love New Zealand.
Yeah.
They brought us Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah.
The greatest rugby players of all time often come from New Zealand.
Tiki Wakatiti, or however you say his name. That guy makes great movies.
Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi. Yeah. I don't do it right ever. New Zealand. It's Kiwis, that. You got that cool.
They brought us kiwi fruit and kiwi birds.
Yep. And it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. We're not counting you out. Ikea, get your Swedish crap together and let's go. I don't know. I'm making this about.
If for no other reason than What We Do in the Shadows was made there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And there's a new one coming out, or TV show produced by all those people.
Monteith's Beer.
Mm-hmm.
There is no end of. They have fjords. They have glaciers.
Yeah. Dan Walling in the chat reminds us Crowded House, one of the greatest bands ever, came from New Zealand. Yeah. That's awesome. Well done.
Sheep. All right. A lot of sheep, actually. Samsung told Forbes and CNET it will no longer make Blu-ray players for sale in the United States.
Oh.
Now, 4K Blu-ray disc sales are rising. So you may say, well, why are they doing this? Overall disc sales fell 11.5% in Q3 2018. Samsung's players also have not supported Dolby Vision, only HDR10, and Dolby Vision is the preferred encoding of HDR by the cognoscenti of videophiles out there. 2.3 million 4K Blu-ray players sold in the first 9 months of 2018. if you count game consoles.
Oh, without them, what
so
is
really,
it?
2.3 million is not that big to begin with, but
No.
then you're counting PlayStations and Xboxes. So.
Yeah, which is often how people end up with these at all. Like they don't go out. Well, my experience is you're either going out for the gaming, or you're going in for the fact that, hey, I don't game that much. I might buy Madden or Call of Duty once a year, but I really want this for the 4K. Like that is always going to be your crossover. Nobody ever goes, I'm buying an Xbox purely for the Blu-ray.
Solely will use it as a Blu-ray player.
Yeah. Well, in the case, actually, Xbox has an advantage here because they do 4K physical media, but PlayStation 4 Pro does not. Well, so it's the Xbox One X does actual physical media. The Pro will do regular Blu-rays, but not 4K UHD, which sucks. They'll do digital files. They'll do file versions of that.
Oh, I see. So you wouldn't even be buying a PlayStation if you wanted a Blu-ray.
It's a really weird thing.
4K
And if you want, and even if you own the disc, ripping that is a nightmare. You're talking about 45 gig of data for a typical hour-and-a-half movie. Like, it's stupid. But here's my take on this. I don't think we should worry all that much about any of it because streaming and the quality of said streaming is on this path. It's going up. It always has, and I think it always will. And we get faster and faster internet, and they kind of coincide, and they have better and better codecs that mean better and better compression, which should mean better quality at slower speeds. But the speeds are also rising, so they can kind of accommodate the higher speeds and then make it better. And I think eventually we're just going to get amazing quality stuff, indistinguishable from anything else, and we just don't need discs ever again.
Yeah, I mean, I know this makes a small percentage of you, and it's small percentage of you based on these numbers, very upset because there's the people who don't want to rely on digital ownership. They're like, wait a minute, if I have a Blu-ray, I have the thing. No one can take it away from me, well, unless they break into my house. But you know what I mean? Like the company can't decide that this copy doesn't work anymore because there's no DRM that can reach in and delete my disc. Right? My disc works. Even if I don't have internet, my disc works. But most people don't worry about that.
Nope.
They're fine with digital ownership, or more likely, they don't even care about ownership. They just want streaming. From Netflix, Hulu, etc. And they're not willing to pay the extra expense to keep, buy, store, and maintain the equipment to play Blu-rays when, gosh, that $70 Roku box streams my 4K videos just fine from the Netflix. So it may make you sad. You may rail against it and say it's wrong. Why are people so dumb? But that's just the way it is. And it always has been.
Yeah.
There were people complaining about recorded music saying, why would you ever not go to a concert? Recorded music will never mimic the real live feeling of being at the opera, for goodness sake. And yet, while they're right, most people like recorded music just fine.
Yeah, we're not talking about outliers. We know there are people, probably some listening. There's one even in here that says, I like their discs. I get it. I just think more and more of the majority of people, which is what drives business and market, are doing exactly what you're saying. I know I have. And I'll tell you what, if you sit back on a couch in a living room with a big 75-inch TV, 1080p, 4K, doesn't really matter, and you're watching some series you're binging on Netflix, I never go, oh, I just can't do this. I can't sit here and do this. Why? It's not 4K enough. I just can't do it. Like, I don't know who's doing that.
There are people who will say, yeah, but I do. I know that
someone will. Absolutely. Absolutely.
My point is not that you're wrong. You're absolutely right. Blu-ray is definitely better. It has more advantages. It can replicate a better picture. But sometimes convenience just trumps fidelity to death.
Yeah. And if you have, look, if the aliens come and they EMP the lot of us and all of our internet goes dead immediately, you may have a point, but also you got bigger problems at that point anyway. So
I mean, it all goes back to like, but there's always something better. A live performance is better. An actual film is often better than a Blu-ray. And you can say like, but I might not have internet to stream the Netflix. that's getting to the point of saying you might not have electricity to play your Blu-ray player either, right?
Yeah,
like it's becoming ubiquitous enough, and there's so many alternatives that it's like, well, but if the landline goes out, I can just use my phone, right? Like it's getting there. It's not exactly the same thing yet. Electricity is still more reliable than internet, but at least in large portions of the world, it's getting close.
We're getting much closer.
Again, you're not wrong. It's just that this is the tide. The tide is going this way.
When I was a kid, in the early 80s, late 70s, the power would go out at least twice a month. Like it just did.
Really?
It went out a lot more,
yeah.
And it depended on where you lived. Some people lived in areas where it was never went out, but we had power that would occasionally go out. These days, extremely rare occurrence. Once in a while, a construction thing will jack us up. But
I was going to say my power when I was growing up would go out a few times a year, generally around the time of a thunderstorm during the summer, or maybe a snowstorm in the winter would knock it out.
Yeah.
We definitely had candles on hand and flashlights just in the case, but definitely not a couple of times a month. But even that, much more often than power goes out now.
Yeah, up here, here now. We've been here for 5 years now. We figured out the other day, I think 5, almost 6 in this house, and the power outages we've experienced were all construction related. We've never had a snow one, a rain one, a wind one. It seems to have all been because some idiot cut a thing and didn't mean to, or did it on purpose because they had to hook up some big transformer and had to shut everybody off for 4 hours to do it, or whatever. So yeah, I just think that we're getting to a place more and more where internet is like that. We're just not seeing it go down. We're seeing reliability rates go up. It is getting cheaper, despite what you may think about your crappy choices in your small part of the country, especially here in the States. Like 20 years from now, I just don't think people are going to buy a bunch of discs. I just don't think it's going to happen. And it won't be enough discs for people to want to make players, which is what this says to me right here. This is already happening where they're like, yeah, we're not doing them anymore. We're going to stop making players. Well, why would Samsung do that? Because they're not selling enough to make it worth it. Or they would. So it'll be boutique. It'll be a boutique business, just like record players are now. People want to go out and get vinyl, and they can, and that's great. And there's a little resurgence here and there, but it's never the mass media thing that it once was, and never will be. So get ready for that future, everybody. Hey, ironically, later, Legal Geek covers a somewhat related topic. So don't hang up the show right when Tom and I sign off. Stick around, because the Legal Geek has more information that you might like. Tom, we should thank all our Redditor submitter people today who helped us out.
Piscator NF, Jeff Rose, and Ripley Ludacris all had at least one, if not more, stories submitted to currentgeek.reddit.com that we used today. Be like them. Get into that subreddit and submit some stuff for our perusal. We do go back and look at the stuff that's been kicking around, no matter how many weeks it is between these news-related episodes, and we love to see all that stuff. So get in there and enjoy it. currentgeek.reddit.com.
I am in a full agreement. I would also like to thank those who put themselves right up in our Patreon.
Right up in there.
Right up in there at patreon.com/currentgeek. Without your support, the show does not thrive the way it does. So thank you, everyone who has considered doing this. And if you haven't, think about doing it. It's not a lot, and you get cool stuff. In fact, there's some great little levels in there where you get exclusive stuff that we don't put anywhere else on the network. So go check it out. Patreon.com/currentgeek. Do it today. All right. It's time for this.
The future promises even more startling things to come.
It's time for Forecast. We predict the future, one prediction at a time. It used to be a show. Now it's a segment. And Tom has chosen to predict today's future. Tom?
Yes. In the future, DJs will just be called J's because there won't be any more discs. No. I'm actually stealing that line from Daniel J. Newman, who just wrote that in the chat.
One. Nice.
No, my real prediction is a weird one. Scott, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Soda flavors will become obsolete.
Okay.
You'll buy soda by brand. You'll say, like, I'm a Coke person, whether it's you like Sprite flavor or whatever. You're in the Coke universe. I'm a Pepsi person. I like the Pepsi flavors. And you will be able to choose the flavor at the time you drink the soda.
Whoa. Is the can
Probably
doing this?
Through some kind of capsule that releases just the right amount of flavoring combination to make your flavor. And advanced versions of this technology will work with sensors embedded inside you, because we'll all have those by that point,
right?
That can predict exactly the flavor you'll enjoy the most. You'll just tell the can like scan me, and it's like, oh, you want vanilla grape? Here you go.
Oh, that's amazing. You know what? This doesn't stop there though. This is everything. So imagine a future where all the nutrients a human would need is in some sort of gruel, you know, just like a packet of gray nothing. But you get to choose what it tastes like. Like you can say, well, this is going to be like bacon and eggs, or this is going to be like whatever awesome thing I want to have flavored
bacon
here.
and egg soda. Yeah.
Well, that'd be, but like any food items, not just soda, like across the board. Like,
oh yeah, okay.
If you're going to eat a bowl of this gray goo, like the Matrix, remember
that requires more technology because you have to change the texture too. Not just the flavor.
Yeah, that's a good
point. With soda, you could have, you could have soda water, you could have bubbly water, and it's going to have the flavor texture of soda. You're just changing the flavor that's in there.
Okay, I think that's a great place to start. But would you give them the option in the technology, or would this come later, where I could say I would like it to be carbonated, or I would not like it to be carbonated? I mean,
yeah, sure, why not?
All right, caffeine this time.
I mean, you do that right now. They have those little capsules that they use them a lot in beer to sell like a draft feel to a can of beer. I didn't know where it's just a capsule of carbon dioxide that goes off in a way that makes it feel like it was pulled from a tap. So you could have that in there, and if you do say no, I don't want it carbonated, it doesn't go off.
I had no idea that was even a thing.
That already exists. I'm just saying, like, I'm sure this technology will definitely have an easier way of doing that, but you could do that today if you wanted.
So if I'm at a bar or a restaurant or whatever, and I got a beer, I can just toss a little pill in there, and then I've got the fizz I want. That's crazy. I didn't know that was a thing. That could have been.
No, you buy the can. You buy the can of the beer.
Right.
And then when you open it, the carbon dioxide comes out.
Oh, that's even cooler. Yeah. That feels like a prediction we could have made on this show 5 years ago and been
5 years
about.
ago, it also existed. I think it's existed for like 15, 20 years. Yeah.
So longer than we've known each other, we were doing forecasts somehow in our dreams. All right, fantastic.
Right. But yeah, I like the idea of the food as sort of the super advanced version of this. Like, not only do they figure out how to have flavors show up, but the texture can change as well. And I guess for things like bacon and eggs, you'd have to add some temperature control also, because I don't want like room temp bacon and eggs.
Plus, it doesn't ruin the whole the long-standing tradition of the waiter or the server saying, "What would you like to drink?" And you say, Coke, and this is Pepsi. Okay, they still can say that because what you're saying is the branding remains.
Right.
Yeah.
You could say I want Sprite, and they'll be like a 7-Up. Okay.
Yeah. And you'll say either yes or no, but that long-standing, wonderful tradition we have in restaurants doesn't leave. We still can say, I guess so. Fine, Pepsi's fine. By the way, I prefer Pepsi these days. I'm going through a change. I don't know what's going on. I know.
Who are you, Scott Johnson?
I've been a Coke guy for as long as forever. That sounds bad, but I'm a Coke guy.
You're such a Coke fiend. I really love your Coke.
But Pepsi lately is just, I don't know why, just hitting the cheese right where I need it.
Really?
So, yeah. Can't explain it.
Imagine. My mom was a Pepsi person in a Coke household. She did like Coke at New Year's. Yeah. She always bought the little Cokes in the little glass bottles for New Year's Day. That was I don't know why. I think she must have done it when she was a kid, and so I never quite understood the connection to New Year's. But I was like, yeah, sure, I'll have my little Coke. That's great.
It's a fun little holiday New Year's tradition. I like that.
You know, I used to break everything down into categories too, like Coke, the National League, the Republican Party, though they all went together, and then Pepsi, the Democrats, the American League, they all went. Then it went on from there. There were other things, but I would categorize everything like
that. Is the most Tom ass thing I've heard in weeks. That is so something you would do. I love it though. I love that. All right, that's delightful. Good prediction. Let's hope it comes true. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. What will happen is us talking about the best thing of all time this week. That's right. We pick things that we found or are doing that we think is just the best thing of all time this week. And for Tom, it's a television show, one I've seen, so I'm excited to hear what you say about this.
Yeah, so I'm a little late to this one, which I think is becoming a norm. Like, we're not all watching everything right when it out anymore.
That's true.
But we were having dinner with our mutual friend Hakito, Eric Van Skyhawk, last week. And we were exchanging things that we watch, which when we get together, a lot of times he comes out to LA for work and we'll try to get together for dinner. He was asking me and Eileen, like, what are you guys watching? And we mentioned a bunch of Asian dramas because that's kind of what we're watching.
Right.
And he said, have you not seen Haunting of Hill House?
Mm-hmm.
And so Eileen and him made a trade. And I think I may have mentioned W on this show. I know I've mentioned it on Cord Killers, which is a Korean drama about a woman who gets sucked into a comic book world and has to save her own life and a bunch of others. And Eileen made a deal because she's afraid of horror TV shows and movies that she would watch The Haunting of Hill House if Hakito would watch W. So that part of the deal is on, right? We watched The Haunting of Hill House. He's watching W. Still waiting to find out what he thought of W, but we loved The Haunting of Hill House. It's the favorite thing I did all week. We were going to kind of binge it over the course of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and with the long weekend with President's Day Monday, because Eileen had Monday off. We didn't even get to Monday. We finished it by Sunday.
Wow.
And the stipulation Eileen had was she could not watch it once the sun went down.
Right.
She could only watch it during the daylight hours.
Okay. That sounds like something.
But it's not scary like it. It's just got some jump scares.
Yeah.
Here and there.
And
it's got some
disturbing stuff.
Too.
Yeah. There's like disturbing moments, but it's not the same as, it's not like a gory slasher film at all. Like it's none of that.
No.
And also, you know what really worked for me? This is the number one thing for that show because I loved it too. I watched it during October, so kind of right around Halloween. And I loved every second of that show. I really loved it. And I'm so glad to hear that you liked it as well. But the big takeaway for me was what made it work was all of these horror elements, these unsettledness of it, the not really knowing what's real, what isn't, all that stuff works, but it works in a very special or heightened way because this family is so likable and you are rooting for them. They go through rough stuff and you're kind of with them the entire time, and you really get close to this family that is depicted in different time frames and all this other stuff, and that makes it different in my opinion. Most horror movies are like expendable people. Just take all the campers out one by one, kill them all, hang them up on the tree there, Freddy or whoever's doing it. Like, who cares? But this was like people you care about, characters I cared about throughout the entire run, and that kept me so riveted, man. I was way into it. So did she?
There is a mystery, too.
Yeah.
That is not just, it's a ghost, right? Although there is plenty of ghost action. If you're looking for that sort of thing, you'll find it. But there's a mystery that you're like, wait, why is this happening? And you get a fairly satisfactory answer. It's not necessarily a science-y, logic answer. It's a horror movie logic answer. But it's an answer.
Yeah.
And I loved that there was a mystery to track down, and it had me speculating about what was really happening, and I was wrong a lot. I was going to say, I thought something was going to happen and it didn't happen, but I don't want to describe it because it's kind of spoilery. But
sure.
But yeah, I was like, oh, so obviously what's going to happen is, these three people will do this because that is showing that. And then I was like, oh, no, that's not what's going to happen at all. So a well-told story. Hakito pitched it because Eileen's a big fan of This Is Us, is kind of like a horror This Is Us. And I can kind of see that because it's a family told through time with flashbacks and slow reveals of things. So best thing I watched all week for sure.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that. There's like many clever moments that I will never forget, and they deal with the bent neck lady. They deal with that door, like stuff that surprised me, and I don't get surprised very often anymore. So when they were able to do that in a show that was only 10 episodes long or whatever.
Yeah.
And man, the little kids, I just want to take them home and protect them and not let them anywhere near that house. Even though
we were making jokes on Twitter after Eileen and I both about, like the scariest part was when they discovered black mold in the house. Because the premise is they're renovating the house.
Right.
So, like the worst thing you can find if you're a homeowner would be black mold.
Yeah, that house is awesome too. But anyway, it's really good. You guys should see it. Here's what I had this week that I thought was the best thing all week. So I have been long in the poo-poo corner of Electronic Arts trying to make Origin a viable platform for PCs. It was originally
and most other people who breathe.
90% of people, well, I shouldn't say, I don't know what their numbers are, but it's
large.
It's large, sure. There was this is especially in the early days because it was like an answer to Steam. They were going to stop putting their games on Steam and have their own Steam, basically. And a lot of people said, well, forget you guys. Why would I do that? Blah, blah, blah. You'd use it once in a while, though. A big title would come out, or you wanted to play some game that just wasn't on Steam, and you're like, well, I really want to play this Dragon Age game. I'm going to have to play it on Origin, so fine, I'll make an account. Veronica and I did that for Dragon Age Origins back in 2014, 2015, whatever it was. And so you rarely went in there, and if there wasn't a run of games you needed, you just didn't even have Origin installed. Something happened, though, recently. And what happened, I think, in my mind as a longtime gamer, is a whole bunch of these stores have been popping up. Most notably the Epic Store, which kind of came out of nowhere with lots and lots of money to try to compete with Steam. They took some exclusives away from Steam, kind of created a big kerfuffle over there. And then you have other stores like the Uplay store has improved a lot for Ubisoft. I'm trying to think of the GOG store. Like all these different stores. And then in their own ways, they've all grown and become viable alternatives. And then out of nowhere and kind of suddenly, Apex Legends launches, which is this enormous, very popular, only a week and a half old or so, maybe 2 weeks now, Battle Royale game that's giving Fortnite a real run for its money. And it came from Respawn Studios, who is owned by EA, which means that if you're going to play this thing, you play it through the EA launcher. Think of it as like if you want to play World of Warcraft, you have to have the Blizzard launcher. You want to play Diablo, you have to have the Blizzard launcher. It's like that's kind of the way players are looking at it. But I went from, ooh, I don't like Origin, I don't want to have it on, to, ooh, this game's really good. And you know what? Origin's not bad. And, oh, I forgot they had all these games. And, oh, they have Anthem coming out. I want to get that. And wait a minute. If I pay $15 a month, I have access to their entire library plus a ton of other third-party games as a service. I don't have to buy those games. I can just basically rent the service, including Anthem, brand new $60 game. The answer is yes. So I said, well, I'm going to try it. I can cancel anytime. Let's give it a shot. I love this service. I want this everywhere. Games as a Netflix-style service, this is actually happening over there. Now, do they have the breadth of choice that you would have on something like Steam? Or, they don't. They simply don't, and they can't. Because the business is, weird that way, and every publisher's got their own hand in whatever pot. And, but so, you've got their games, and some of those are very top-tier, awesome games. Some aren't as much, but, a lot of them are very good. And then you have a bunch of third-party stuff, and it makes for a Netflix-style games as a service. And I like it a lot. Like, it's kind of got its hooks in me, and it makes me want this from everyone else, or a more unified platform. And again, that's the whole point, is everybody's finding ways to make their platform have a reason to go use it. And that's exactly what EA is doing right now. And I'm kind of happy for them, because they got their own Fortnite, and that means a huge increase in all sorts of things. But I really like it. I think it might be the best in gaming anyway. They're really
Can you not get these games from other services like it though?
Not their games. EA games are only available on Origin.
Yeah.
So if you want to play a big BioWare game like Anthem that just came out, if you want to play this huge mega blockbuster, you either play it on consoles, but if you're on PC, you get it on Origin.
We're going to go through the same pain we're going through with video services right now. There's going to be a proliferation of these things. There's going to be 15 different ones you're going to have to keep track of if you really want to play a game. And everybody's going to hate it and say, I wish we could go back to physical discs. I just went into GameStop and bought the disc. What was wrong with that? But eventually it'll shake out, and we'll get just a few services left, and some will consolidate, and then it'll become manageable. And ubiquitous. It'll become just common, and everybody will be doing it. Or at least in the PC gaming sphere. I can't speak to consoles. That's a whole other layer of complexity of who owns what and everything. But the two best deals in gaming right now are similar services. Microsoft has their Game Pass service. I think that thing is excellent. It's actually a lot like this. The big advantage there is that the Microsoft games that you're playing on your Xbox, if they have a PC version of it, you can also play those. It's all covered under the same thing. Cloud saves, like all that stuff's connected. It's a screaming deal. It's really good. They don't have a ton of third party in there because, again, that's the trick. But EA's is almost just like that, except it's really heavily focused. They have a console version of this and this. I got Anthem a week before everybody else.
You get access to most of their big games. Their big sports games come out a week before it does anybody else. And it's $15 a month. And I'm not just trying to shill for them. I actually feel like I'm getting a good value right now. It just feels good. And the fact that I can cancel it like I would HBO or something if it's not doing it for me, it's great. Like I prefer this. So take it what you will, listeners. I think that EA Premier Access or Origin Access Premier is a hell of a deal and would recommend it. They also have a lower tier one that gives you just less games, but I went for it, and I don't know. I feel like I'm in the upside down, Tom, a little bit because
I was gonna say, like, a lot of people are just not going to believe you.
No, they're not. But it's
because you're saying, first of all, you're just saying a nice thing about EA. Second, you're saying a nice thing about EA Origin.
I know,
which is like one of the worst things that EA ever rolled out when it first came out.
I agree.
But it's proof things can change and people can change.
Yeah, and also ideas around it can change, or at least our feelings or impressions can change. You know, we went back. You go back to 2008. We screamed as a community and said, "Oh my gosh, how could Bethesda charge $3 for horse armor in Oblivion? How can this be?" Well, it was really the first time anybody had seen any kind of microtransaction in a mainstream game. It just hadn't happened before then. That was before mobile took off in the way that mobile did. We didn't have the App Store yet, like all the microtransaction sort of world that we're headed to. And now the world's largest video games making the most billions of dollars are all based on microtransactions and a free base game. Like, you couldn't have convinced anybody in 2008 that was coming in 10 years. You just couldn't. So I think what's happening, at least my own mentality, I'll speak for myself, Origin suddenly looked like what it probably should have always looked like, which is, it's like the Blizzard launcher for EA games.
Right.
Like Blizzard's a launcher for their games. And anybody who's big enough to do this has a launcher for their games. Epic, Bethesda, all of them. The only difference is if you're small and you're indie or you're trying to break through or whatever, you don't have the wherewithal, you go through Steam. And then Steam takes their piece of your pie and you take your 70% and it works out okay. But if you ever got big enough, damn right, in this environment, you do your own launcher. And it's okay. I have them all down on my launcher pad down there. I can click them anytime I want. No big deal. In fact, I'm already starting to use Ubisoft. Even though Ubisoft still sells through Steam for most of their games, I'm using the Ubisoft launcher to run my stuff. I'm having it's just what's the paradigm shift? It's shifting. Like
and
that.
You're not, I think it's important to point out, you're not saying, and I've forgiven EA for everything they've ever done that I was wrong. No, you're not saying that.
Not even
you're
close.
Like, no, the Sims launch was crap. The SimCity launch was crap. And you know, they've done some horrible things in the past with in-game purchases and loot boxes. But that doesn't mean you won't identify when they do something you like.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I'll tell you what, Apex Legends is doing it right. And I think Anthem has potential, although I got some issues with it. But the fact that there's just this like game as a service option for PC gamers that is this specific is really cool. And I know Game Pass people are like, well, ours is doing that too. I know it is. And if I had an Xbox One, I'd be using it. I don't, so I what's the point? I mean, there's the PC side, but it doesn't really do me much good. So anyway, check it out. Just see for yourselves. It's just a thing that I'm surprised that I like as much as I like it. All right, let's do a quick email. This came to us from a dude. John Janes is his name. Came to currentgeek@gmail.com. And he says this about our episode 199. Hey, Scott, just want to start out by saying I listen to every podcast, whether it be TMS, The Instance, and even There Will Be Dungeons. But this is the first time I've ever felt the need to write in. This episode of Current Geek hit me in all the feels. Oh, wait, did I read this before? I didn't read this before, did I? I've been holding this for a while. I want to make sure I didn't already read it. So, Tom, if it sounds familiar, you tell me. Anyway, I'm 22 years old, and not only did I grow up with Star Wars, but my dad helped me grow up with Star Wars. I remember when I was just a little kid and he handed me my Darth Vader collector's case. Oh, no, we did talk about this because you have the case. Don't you have the Darth Vader?
I don't think we've only had one of these episodes since we did the Star Wars.
Well, then if I read this before, John, you're getting it twice. Yeah. I remember when I was just a little kid, he gave me the Darth Vader case, the same one that our friend Tom Merritt has. This was the start of it all for me. I've loved the Star Wars universe and everything it has to offer. This has by far been my favorite podcast you have ever done, in my opinion, and I just wanted to say, keep it up.
Aw.
Well, thanks,
thank
John.
You. Again.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that's really nice. I don't remember you reading this.
I don't either. Sidian says I read it a few weeks ago, and it is familiar to me, but I thought it was because I was holding on to it for so long. If I did read it twice, I apologize, but it was so nice, I read it twice.
Well, I think he's saying the Star Wars episode where we actually watched and discussed Star Wars was just a few weeks ago. So.
Oh, I don't know. Well,
it was like right at the beginning of January.
Either way, so nice we read it twice, or nothing rhymes with once. I was going to have another rhyme, but I don't have one. All right. Anyway, hey, stick around. Legal Geek's going to talk about a listener question about whether a false advertising claim can be made when a digital copy for a movie is expired or invalid with no expiration date printed on the outer package. Again, having a little bit to do with what we talked about with physical media earlier. And next week, very excited about this, my favorite sitcom of all time is up next for our autopilot episode, Faulty Towers. John Cleese, or Farty Towels, one of the episodes has it all misspelled on the sign. And there's some other ones I can't see on the air, but we're going to see the first episode of that. It's not really a pilot, I guess, but I don't know how Britain does it. But it's like the first episode.
Autopilot is always about the first episode of a show and us talking about that entire show from the light of watching the first episode. So we're going to watch the first episode and don't get too hung up on it.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
Relax.
Me as well. I'm very excited about it. Just love John Cleese and everything he ever did. And Faulty Towers, I think, is just a piece of genius. And I watch it over and over and over. I'm not to give anything away for next week, but this is the show where when I was in high school, junior high and high school, I would record it with a tape recorder up next to the TV. And then I would take that tape to school, and I would listen to it all day. Yeah.
Wow.
That's how into it I was.
I will make a shocking admission to Scott on this episode.
Oh, my gosh. Really? We have to wait until then?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Fair enough. So that's next week. Don't forget to check that out. We're out of here. Thanks, everybody, for... Oh, Tom Merritt. Anything going on you want to mention? Any kind of cool...
Yes, indeed. It's a thing. When I say that, I mean there's a show called It's a Thing at it'sathing.me that Molly Wood and I do, talking about stuff we're noticing in the world. Whether it's new exercise plans or silver Jeeps everywhere. It's a lot of fun. And if you're into like what the world is coming to and you want to wrap your head around it by looking at what is it new that's interesting people, you have to check it out. Molly Wood and myself, it'sathing.me.
Oh, that's fantastic. I've been really enjoying it. I think other people will as well. Don't forget, upcoming is the TMS meetup in Las Vegas, Nevada. We did it last year. We're doing it again. If you're a fan of the morning stream or just this community in general, head on out to Vegas and do so by getting a ticket. You can go over to frogpants.com/TMS or TMS Viva TMS Viva, I can't remember the thing. It doesn't matter because it's linked on frogpants.com/TMS. So go there. Tickets available now. It's up on the store as well, and you get a cool challenge coin if you do that, plus some other stuff. Very excited about it. Can't wait to see you all there. Thank you all for listening. That's going to do it for us. CurrentGeek.com, Patreon.com/CurrentGeek, and on Twitter @CurrentGeek, @AceDetect for Tom, @Scott Johnson for me. That's going to do it for us. For me, for Tom, we'll see you next time.